Hey, welcome to Culture Shot. So the best conversation I had this week by far was about inspirational leadership, and I want to briefly just go through one or two of the thoughts that occurred to me while I was having that conversation because I love that kind of topic. I love that kind of thing. I think it goes straight to the heart of what culture is. And the thing that kicked this conversation off, somebody said to me that you can tell the culture of an organization by how people behave when the leaders aren't in the room. And I mean, that makes sense in a way. So if people are living according to the values, doing the right things, they're the things that you'd hope they would do, even though they're not supervised, they're doing those voluntarily, then something's working, something's spilled down. There's consensus about what this all looks like. And that's key to culture. There's no doubt about that. But this idea that leaders being in and out of the room should be an impactor of how people behave is something troubling to me because I think one of the hallmarks of great leadership, maybe inspirational leadership for this matter, is whether or not people actually feel the need to click off what they're doing the moment the leader walks into the room. In other words, if you've got good people and you trust your people to do their job and they're doing quite well, you can tell that through your normal sort of chain of command style leadership responsibilities, where you're measuring performance, you're measuring people's operational activity, you're measuring whether or not they're getting their jobs done, and you're doing that through a process of weekly check-ins or whatever it might be. So you're getting a handle on all of that, and that's a necessary thing. And sometimes you have to be a disciplinarian, sometimes you have to be an authoritarian if things aren't really working out with an individual here and there, and that's just some of the things that leaders have to do. And I think being bold about that is inspirational. I think that's a necessary hallmark of a strong leader. And I think culture is strong as well when there's less ambiguity, when people are pretty clear about where they stand. And so that's a way of driving clarity. I think it's important. But if people feel that your presence is only about that, in other words, if they're threatened by it, when you walk in the room, if they suddenly click off the internet and pretend they're writing an email because that's you being there is something that they're challenged by, that they're worried by, that they don't want to have to explain what they're doing, then you may lack one of the other hallmarks of inspirational leadership, which is that benevolence of being. And I mean that's quite a thing to say, that benevolence of being, but just the fact that you being there is generally a good thing. I always think about extreme examples, but just before D-Day, when Eisenhower went down so he was Dwight Eisenhower, Ike was the supreme commander of Allied forces in Europe, and he went to visit the bases in the south of England just before this invasion, and he met the paratroopers the night before they took off. They were the first ones to land, the ones who were going to do arguably by far the most dangerous job, and as the senior leader, you'd expect that they'd be very conscious about the state of the base and about the state of their uniforms and whether or not they were, all dressed up and ready to go and so on. But that's not what they were doing, because of course that's not why he was there. He wasn't there doing a base inspection. He wasn't there doing a uniform inspection. He was there to say, guys, listen, thank you. I'm right behind you here. We recognize what you're doing. We recognize how hard it is. He was there being kind of a cheerleader, right? He was there being that inspirational leader. His presence there was only seen as benevolent. It was a good thing. It was a good thing for him to pop in, and he let a whole bunch of other stuff slide, as he should, because that wasn't the right time or the right place. And I think that's a hallmark of inspirational leadership, is knowing when you should be the disciplinarian and when you should be the cheerleader, of knowing when you should push people and when you shouldn't. In other words, if you're having a problem with somebody week in, week out, that their performance isn't good, and you keep on seeing them on the internet, but on Facebook or whatever, then you might have cause to say to them, hey, listen, stop doing that. If, on the other hand, somebody's doing a really good job and you walk in and they're on Facebook, do you say something about it or don't you? Well, whether or not people feel that that's what you're going to do is going to have a big impact on how they react to you. And how they react to you is going to have an impact on whether or not you're the kind of inspirational leader that they need. So that's kind of it. I mean, I think there's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of one or two of the thoughts that went through my mind. That's what I've been working on all week as I've been digesting it. It's been food for thought for me. Hope it's food for thought for you as well. And I wish you a very successful week.